everyone. Welcome to the Marketing and PR in Web3 webinar, which is a part of the ICP.Lab Business Boosters that we are launching. This is the first online ICP Lab, and I'm very happy that our team is part of that. This is the second edition. Yeah, let's kick everything off. This is, we are the DFINITY marketing team, and today we are going to talk about how you can boost your presence, how you can grow your community as an ICP project, like building in our ecosystem. So we will start with our Chief of Staff, Ricardo, who will give us more insight of what Web3 marketing is actually all about. After that, we have Shruti, who is our social media manager. She is going to talk about traditional versus Web3 marketing. Then we have William for editorial, Emilio with a very interesting topic, influencers marketing. Then we have Aaron, who will present public relations, and then Lumesh with growth. So after that, we will have a Q&A session, and all of you will be able to ask your questions, and my colleagues are monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions during the presentations, we will be happy to answer everything for you. So let's start with the first topic. Ricardo, hi.
Hey, thank you, Martina. Hello, everyone. We can move into the next slide, please. And marketing is a very important topic that many startups barely look at usually, and it's why it's important to focus on marketing at every stage of your growth and development as an entrepreneur, as a manager. You will always have to talk to people. You will always have to involve investors, involve team members, users, clients, vendors. You will always have to somehow sell your ideas, sell your products at every single stage. Think about when you have an idea and you're talking to friends, family, about your idea. It's already like a first marketing initiative. When you want your idea to be validated, when you get into hiring people, like recruiting people, bringing people on board, it's also part of like all about communicating your idea and communicating your vision to the different team members that you will onboard, from your very first partner or co-founder or employee up until you become like a more larger and successful organization. When you start to package your product and you start to sell it to different users on different platforms, when you actually have that exciting moment of launching it, then it's ready for launching, and there's always like so many different initiatives, so many different activities that you have to think about. Okay, let's do a launch event, let's do online launch event, in real person launch event. You have so many different ideas in your mind, and then you go into like, okay, now that we have launched our startup, then we have to scale and we have to grow into like more of a maturity stage. Then you're gonna start to have to raise more funds, include more investors, decentralize your governance to a community. It's always gonna be important to pay a lot of attention to marketing, especially in Web3, which is changing. And next slide, please. First of all, we want to focus a little bit also on different reasons for like so-called strategic marketing. And this is important because many of the products, technologies that we are developing, that you guys are developing out there, every single stage, they need to get to the general public. They need to get to organizations, to partners, to to people out there that don't necessarily understand the core of your business, the core of your product, the core of your tech. And there are at least 4 strategic initiatives that marketing will be useful for in any stage, like establishing partnerships. That's very important because you're going to have to grow your team and grow your market share and grow your presence with very solid partners and develop communities. That's also more and more important when everybody is very well connected with through different channels, educate different audiences. You want people out there not only to learn about your project, not only to learn about your product, not only to learn about your tech, but also to know how to use it, to know what's the secret of using your product, your tech in the best way, and obviously to grow users. Next, please. And we are moving quickly nowadays from traditional marketing to so-called Web3 marketing. And then we will hear from my colleague later, Shruti, a little bit more about this. But, from traditional events to editorial, social media, PR, influencers marketing, thought leadership, the way it used to be, all of these are changing into Web3 events, Web3 editorial, Web3 social media, Web3 PR, Web3 influencers marketing, Web3 thought leadership. It's all changing, for example, like from token-based referral programs that reward users for referring new user to the platform, to create NFTs and digital collectibles that can be earned by participating in the communities. We are quickly moving from all of these traditional marketing tools and effective, they used to be effective anyway, even a few years ago, before entering into a complete Web3 universe, to a complete new Web3 marketing ecosystem. And that's it from me. Shruti's gonna tell you more about Web3 marketing. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricardo. Thanks for that nice segue into my section. And like you rightly kind of introduced, it's changing. We're moving from traditional marketing, the way we've seen it all these years, to what is so-called Web3 marketing. It's not something entirely different, but it's more a mindset change. Whereas in traditional marketing, our mindsets are on the words mentioned on the left-hand side: advertising, acquisition, build a brand, build audiences, grab people, make them users, etc. It's similar stuff, but it's moved to a different kind of a mindset, which is more, everything starts with community. So instead of advertising, it's today about, in Web3, it's all about community engagement. It's not brand-led. It's not a brand dictating things happening on a particular product or DApp or protocol like ours, but it's community-led. It's community who decides most of the things, community feedback, community listening. It's not about building audiences. Traditional marketing is all about big top funnel, and then you filter it down. I'll talk more about it later. Here, it's not so much about that. It's about knowing who your core audience could be, your believers in your product, and start building from there. It's like a different kind of a building process. It's not so intimidating. Even if you've never done marketing before, I believe this is much more intuitive to product talking marketing rather than brand talking marketing. Next slide, Martina. So yeah, like we said, the big shift is we've always in traditional marketing looked at as users as audiences. We used to call it platform economy, where the metrics to be tracked are always number of followers, number of likes, number of engagement, are we advertising on Facebook or not, how are we doing on Twitter. We are still doing it. I'm not saying we are not doing it, but in the Web3 way, it has to shift to to a user as an owner economy, and the whole part that Ricardo spoke about, tokenization, as well as making users co-owners, and then thinking about marketing from that point of view. So yeah, just to summarize, Web3 marketing is community at the core. Everything revolves around community. Experience needs to shift to a core Web3 or true Web3 experience. I believe it's a little broken. We'll talk about it a little bit. And the route to this is decentralized ownership through DAOs. So these are different steps that a DApp could take, but that's the route that needs to kind of happen in Web3 marketing. Just going back to a little bit of a theoretical framework. So typically marketing has been a funnel approach. So whether it's the ADA funnel, as we used to call it, so from awareness to interest, desire, or it's the sales funnel, or it's any other kind of funnel, it's always been a funnel approach where the top of the funnel is broad, and then we used to call it leaky bucket, and then you kind of come down, and if you get 100 people on the top, you get one person at the bottom as a user or an evangelist, and then you start all over again from the top. Web3 marketing is more what's called the flywheel marketing, where growth or community becomes the center, and it has to be a virtuous cycle, and it cannot be a funnel where you have to keep filling the funnel from the top. It has to be a virtuous cycle which kind of keeps rotating and growing, rotating and growing. The other concept we've always heard about marketing is push versus pull marketing. So if we break up marketing historically into 4 or 5 phases, in the olden times or in the beginning, it was sell the product, the old advertising, the Mad Men kind of era. Then it became into more focus, segmentation and targeting kind of a thing. Our generation has mostly lived through the social media phase where users became creators and things like that. We are slowly shifting to community marketing, and that's where Web3 works, where users are not just content creators, but much more than that. Next slide. Let's take an example from what we've seen recently. Let's take OpenChat as an example, right? We know they've spent zero money on advertising. They've not paid a single influencer to do anything for them. However, at the stage that they are in, they managed to get the first set of believers. So people who believed in privacy, who believed in things that OpenChat is all about, through word of mouth, through the community, through the larger ICP community. These believers came together to make community and got more believers into it, which became their first starting point of the flywheel community. Recently, we know 2,375 community members of OpenChat became co-owners, and these co-owners are going to get the next set of users, and the flywheel is going to kind of start happening. It's not that they've become large or they've got mass adoption, but the way they've done marketing is not the funnel approach. It's not let's spend money on advertising, let's acquire, and then we'll see what happens with those users. These people who've become co-owners are really their evangelists today. They are co-owners. They believe their interest in marketing OpenChat is higher than any other kind of user that a Web2 platform may probably have experienced till now. Yeah, so next slide. Coming to the tools of Web3 marketing, I don't need to say that everybody here who's in the Web3 space is using these tools. Typically, it's Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. Twitter is currently used to be visible in the larger ecosystem community. So in the ICP, for example, in ICP, our ecosystem exists on Twitter. If you want to do cross DApp conversation to see what or engage in conversations happening at the community level, it's Twitter. And of course, the larger Web3 enthusiasts, they are all, it's a large crypto community on Twitter. So that's how we are using Twitter. Telegram and Discord are more used for community building, and these are places where products or dApps need to engage, talk, and start building their community. Make those people a part of, or make them believers in the product, make them feel like they have a shared common set of values. And then I think lots of our apps are doing this well enough. However, this is where we are today. This is not true Web3 marketing, honestly. And we need to slowly start shifting gears into Web3 marketing. And it starts with tools. So next slide, please. Today, we are using Web2 tools to deliver Web3 marketing. So like I said, Twitter, Telegram, Discord, they are not built for Web3. They were Web3 tools, Web2 tools, which were developed for certain purposes. We are adapting our needs to that, and it's not the other way around. The tools are not adapting to the Web3 needs. So let's say Discord, I'm sure all of you who use Discord will know that the experience is broken. So you do certain things on Discord. There's no feature on Discord like where NFTs or gated portals or tokenization, and then the user kind of feels a broken experience. They keep jumping from the application to application. So for something you are on Discord, then for something else you open a wallet, then for something else you go and connect your NFT through something. It's just not great UI. It's just not great user experience. And with tools, next slide please. With native tools like Discover being developed on our platform and on other platforms as well, I'm sure that's where Web3 marketing future exists. So I'm sure all of you know, but just to kind of reiterate, on Discover as a platform, it's social media. So of course you do everything that you can do on a Twitter or on social media. I'm not going to talk about that, but as you know, it's integrated to receive airdrops, create portals, token gated portals, verified profile pics, and do other things. So yeah, it may not be perfect right now, but this is the direction where Web3 marketing is headed to. Slowly it'll go to these platforms. Next slide. Yeah, and we are not there yet, but if you look at the left, our future iPhone screens would probably look like this with all these applications instead of the typical ones that we know on the left side of the chart. And these are the native integrated applications that we need to start using for Web3 marketing. It's a journey. We are at a stage where we have to balance the old with the new, but slowly, hopefully it will move to the right-hand side more and more. I think that was the last slide. Yeah, that was me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Shruti. And now we have William with copywriting and editorial.
Thank you. And I just learned a lot from Shruti. Thanks again. Can we go to the first slide here? So traditionally, there were 5 Ps of marketing. That's become 7. Like everything else in life has become more complicated. With Web3, we probably have 9, but let's stick to 7. So today I want to hit physical evidence, product, place, and people, right? So I want to hit 4 of these. And I'm going to talk today about copywriting and getting your brand message or your product message out there to a Web3 audience in the most powerful way possible. As I look around in the ICP ecosystem and other ecosystems, I see a lot of good marketing, but I also see a lot of things that sort of miss the mark or could be improved. And what we need to remember in Web3 is there are 2 things that we need to build with our audience. We need to build trust and we need to build expertise. Trust, because this is a place where everyone's getting scammed, everyone's getting rugged all the time. The trust is our most important currency in a trustless Web3 environment, right? I appreciate that irony there. And we also need to build expertise because this is a place in Web3, nobody knows what the hell they're doing. We really don't, right? So those are the 2 things. And how do we do that? We do that in our copywriting in 3 ways. We need to be authoritative, we need to be friendly, and we need to be clear, right? Because we are in a space that is very complicated and we need to demystify that. So on the next slide, I have 10 bullet points here that I'd like people to keep in mind. So if you're building a D app on ICP, keep in mind these 10 bullet points. And when you are crafting your marketing message, when you are crafting your copywriting, anything with the written word, always keep these in mind. So number 1 is know your audience, know where you're aiming that cannon at. So no business brings a product to market without understanding that market, and your copywriting should be able to reflect that. Know your audience, know who you want to reach in this, in each individual, whether it's an article or a blog post, and sometimes they need to be very, very targeted and bespoke. The next is craft a compelling headline. So what I've noticed is you can have a good headline and bad content, and people are still going to read all the way through, even though the content might be crap, just because you've already hooked them initially. So make it clickable, make it sticky. Next, focus on benefits and differentiated value before the features. Tell your audience how it's going to make their life better. Set up those use cases. One thing that I did in my latest Medium article is I sort of set up the reader in a way that I talked about the collapse of Signature Bank. I talked about the collapse of SVB, sort of got their attention and was able to then get into SNS and those benefits that it brought, and then get into features. Next is use power language. We really need to improve in the blockchain space how we talk about our products. So I always see this, what I call passive language or wishy-washy language, where people say, we strive to, we aim to, we hope to, and those need to be replaced with power words. We execute, we solve, we fix, we will, we eliminate. So very important to use power language. Don't talk down to your readers and don't be over technical. This is one thing that I tell people that write for me or with me all the time is, don't tell the reader what you're going to talk about or what you're going to do in that piece of copywriting. Just get into it, right? Cut the fat, be clear, don't be over technical unless you have to. Number 6, use compelling visuals and think about how it will be consumed. I would say this from working with AI for the last month with Midjourney and some of these other things is that use AI. AI is your friend. AI is about to put stock photo companies out of business because I can go to the prompt and I can tell it exactly what I need, and it's going to create a compelling visual for any target audience. So very important. We live in a visual consumer society, and never overlook that. Number 7, include a lucid call to action. So how do you make your writers feel differently? How do you make them cry? How do you make them laugh, right? There's fundamental things that you can do to target your audience, right? There's humor, there's playing on their fear, there's playing on their greed, right? I mean, fear and greed are really two of the main emotions where you can latch onto those emotions and craft a call of action around it. Think about what you want your readers to feel, think, or do after they read that piece of copywriting or content. Number 8, use social proof and real life use cases. All I'm going to say on this is word of mouth endorsements. If you look at TV commercials and you see 4 out of 5 doctors recommend blah, 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 blah. They do that because it works. People like testimonial. They like use cases. They like to see a template in, like what works for someone else, or someone else has a similar problem. How will it work for them? Number 9, everything. Sorry about that. My alarm's going off. Everything needs to be peer reviewed. Copywriting is a group process. And, I'll go back and I'll see things that I've written a week ago. Oh my God, I need to make a change. A month ago, oh my gosh, make a change. Now, if there are more people in that review pipeline, the better chance or that piece of content is going to be perfect. But you can't just sit down. No one can sit down. I don't care how great of a writer that you are. No one is ever going to sit down and craft something that is great by themselves. They just don't. The last point I want to make is not necessarily on the crafting the content, but you need to be able to measure the effectiveness. So always understand how many clicks are you getting, like how many eyes are you getting, how many views, how many hand claps. Measure that effectiveness, and then if it's good, understand how to recycle that. Maybe it's another piece of written content that leverages that. Maybe it's a YouTube video, maybe it's something else, but great content deserves to be recycled. That's pretty much all I have. Thank you for listening. Hope it makes sense.
Thank you, William. So now we move on to influencers marketing with Emilio. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Who doesn't want a big influencer on board with his or her brand? Well, let's give it a try. Okay, first of all, it's very important to understand that influencer marketing is not everything. It's a part of something that has been explained already by Ricardo, by Shruti. It's called marketing mix. So I know it might be easier to think that once the influencers are sorted, your business is going to be extremely successful, but it's not. So please have a look at this 10 bullet points on the left, I try to understand that ideally the majority of this is needed for a successful marketing strategy. Personally, I think content is extremely important because content is what opens the door to everything else. And I want to go back here to what William said just a few moments ago. Okay, now getting back to business. So there are trends that keep changing. Influencers are mostly young people. They belong to a young generation. They belong to a world that changes pretty fast. So we'll try to have a look at what is happening in 2023. And we'll evaluate a few best practices that might be useful in building your brand and in bringing influencers on board. Why best practices? Because this is a matter of execution. Execution is almost everything here. Planning is very important, but this is really a matter of doing as well. In theory, it might look pretty simple. Honestly, it's not rocket science. The difficult part is making it happen. Next slide. This is a very important one, short form video content. It's a super trend. You might have noticed that YouTube short video on TikTok, on Twitter, everywhere are literally invading the space, especially concerning crypto. Why? Well, first of all, they are extremely mobile friendly in a way that they can also easily be made by mobile. They're very appealing, usually because they're kind of flashy and very eye-catching. We know that the audience historically gets shorter and shorter attention spans, and this is particularly valid when it comes to crypto and Web3 audience, especially because it's kind of very young. So you get, with a short format, all the attention needed. Last but not least, producing content is a time-consuming thing, and it's something that really requires a lot of effort. This kind of video can be actually realized without forcing too much what we call the bandwidth. So it's very efficient, and if you look at it as a sort of kind of return, is a very effective tool to maximize your time and your money as well. Next one. Multi-channel strategy. Here, I'm trying to keep it kind of real as much as possible. It's very important, extremely important. We see a phase, a well-recognized phase in the internet computer ecosystem era that is at least heavily focused on 3 social media: TikTok, which is his main channel; Twitter, which is very strong for crypto and in general as well for the IC ecosystem, and LinkedIn, which might look peculiar, but not that much. Do not underestimate LinkedIn in what you do, because it seems that aside from a lot of noise, LinkedIn is where things are happening at the moment. So aside from LinkedIn, it's very important to be multi-channel. Why? Well, first of all, because you go to a larger audience, but not necessarily. For example, Aaron has got hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok. He doesn't need 800 people. He doesn't strictly need 800 people on LinkedIn, but those people might be different. It might be the people that can get you in a partnership, might be the people that can start a cooperation with you, might be the people that will introduce someone. LinkedIn is very good for introduction. So different and larger audience, and multiple audience as well. Well, for sure, engagement, which is the main metric here, will be higher on multiple social media. But I would like to insist on a point concerning credibility and reputation. It's very important to be on more than one social media and to acquire that sort of reputation needed to then approach influencers in different ways. So very important strategy to be kept in mind. Next one. Focus on data. This is an activity that you need to organize. We'll see it later with a real example of what we did at DFINITY. This picture is from an actual report that we used to keep twice a week to measure, or at least have a feel of what was happening around the strategy that was in place. Data are important. Being on Twitter all day doesn't mean having a social media campaign, or let alone being able to engage with influencers. So use simple tools and try to generate regular reports just to have a feel of what's happening. It can be a small presentation for yourself or your team. It can be an Excel sheet, which is what we're still using on another program at DFINITY. Try to understand if who you're targeting is actually responding some way. You might want to have a column with how do you get there, okay? Through a friend, through a referral, through another influencer, who's close to these people, why, what are the conversations that you need to engage to do it. It's very important. Random tweeting won't let you go anywhere. As well, you can learn. Once you have data, you can see if your strategy is successful. You can see, for example, how many influencers I have onboarded on Twitter out of the 20 that I wanted to get in contact with. If it's one, probably it's not that successful. If it's 10, why not? You might notice that your efforts could be more successful on TikTok or on YouTube, or why not on LinkedIn, which again is more established. People on LinkedIn they don't use JPEGs as profile pictures, so your reputation is better. You can get in touch easily with the person on LinkedIn that will actually reply to your message. Maybe on LinkedIn he's not that big, while on Twitter he might have 400,000 followers and not even having a message button in the profile. So data, reporting, and learn valuable lessons, 3 very important things. Next one. Build meaningful relationships. Right, we started a few years ago with when the influencer concept came out, typical Web2 concept more than Web3, with Instagram, with all the social media, thinking about influencers as stars. Now, Web3 has seen things changing a little bit, more toward micro-influencers, or what they call nano-influencers, which are nevertheless extremely good for engagement and to amplify your message, and as well more easy approachable. How we approach micro-influencers. For example, building a meaningful relationships. That's me, Bruno Calabretta, Mirko Maggiore, and Antonello Pusi in a webinar about what was happening and is happening in Italy with the FederItaly Made in Italy certification on the internet computer. And all this has come through a very powerful relationship with Bruno that I established more than a year ago. That has led to very nice results, online and offline. So it's very, I can mention the friendships between William and BitBoy and many others, even members of special project. They are in contact with influencers, they relate each other, they exchange opinion, they exchange content. So it's very important to build meaningful connection and not just go there and say, hey, you know, my product is so cool, you should talk about it. It doesn't work. These people don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear as well all this very fashionable soft selling email where you tell them that you want to explore every possible possibility to cross-pollinate together, all this stuff. They don't want to hear it. Okay, you need to find angle for a meaningful relationship and angles to exchange value with these people. It's a value exchange. Can be monetary or not monetary, but it's a value exchange. These people won't do anything for you just for the sake of truth. Next slide. Tools are very important. Now, tools might be expensive, but not necessarily. For example, I'd like to mention two here. One, Google extension, very important. Why? Because with this tool, you can analyze the audience of a specific influencer. You might think that that person is big on crypto, blah, 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 but you might find out that, for example, he doesn't have a following regarding NFT, which is what you want to do. So tool number one to be put in your toolkit definitely is an instrument able to evaluate what kind of engagement these influencers have. Tool number two, this is a freemium one, is Hootsuite. Is very good to analyze hashtags, to analyze keywords, to analyze trends, and also to program and schedule your activity. You can, for example, be on certain topics, using certain hashtags, because you know that people that you're following or you want to have on board with you, they're always hang around these keywords. Can be blockchain, can be Bitcoin, can be whatever, depending on the case. Doing this kind of evaluation without a tool, it's very dangerous because it will lead you the wrong way, creating hashtags nobody cares about, and so forth. Any sort of mistake can be made and will really limit your ability to engage with influencers, to get in touch, and to get some sort of value out of it. It's a strategy, as I hopefully will show in the next slide, with what we think is a successful case. So here we are. At a certain point toward the end of the year, we noticed that the FUD around the internet computer was still kind of big. So we decided to put together something that at the time was called Project Radar. This is a roadmap made by Martina, our host, specifically for the program. Program has been very successful, and you can judge it by yourself because there is not that much FUD around the IC anymore, aside from cases that probably will be always there. Now, not going too much into the details, the point of having this here is showing that a strategy, a well-thought strategy, which is still somehow going on. We have a program for influencers, and it's in full swing, but it started here. It started with a strategy. And that roadmap has been fully accomplished. Now, I can't reveal too much about what we're doing, but my last recommendation is, and I wanna say it, showing a successful case, be strategic when you do these things. I said it before, randomly tweeting all day and all night won't lead you anywhere, let alone with influencers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emilio. Now we have public relations with Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
Thank you, Martina, and thank you, Emilio. Thank you, everyone, for joining. So my name's Aaron. I look after PR and comms at DFINITY. I'm relatively new to DFINITY, so I'm just going to give you a little bit about my background, so that might help you understand where I'm coming from when I get into the public relations side of things. So I started off in journalism. So I wrote for a number of publications in Dublin, Ireland, where I'm based, and wrote across tech, media, politics, pharmaceuticals, and a couple of other more random bits. Then I joined a PR agency and helped them basically build their blockchain comms team. So I've worked with DFINITY, obviously. They were a client of mine a long time ago. CoinList, Polychain, 0x, The Graph, Ledger, Origin Foundation, which is part of the DFINITY Internet Computer ecosystem, and lots more. So then I went on to work with Cardano, ran their media relations, and now I'm back at DFINITY telling the internet computer story. So throughout all this time, I've worked with journalists from the FT to Bloomberg, CNBC, Wired, Fortune, then to crypto trades like CoinDesk, The Block Decrypt, etc., like basically across the board. And so I'm going to share some kind of practical tips that I think apply for crypto publications and mainstream media. I think all journalists on either side of that, mainstream and trade publications, will kind of appreciate if you like follow these tips. And I think they'll help you be a little bit more successful in kind of your PR strategies going forward. So slide 1, please, Martin. Thank you. So how to build relationships with journalists. So it's not all about relationships, but it helps a lot if you have these relationships with journalists. So reading their work. So I understand everyone here is entrepreneurs and developers and they're super busy, but you should try to read as much media as possible. So try to get a feel for who covers what and where. So there are journalists that cover basically every niche. There's a beat for every niche. So there's NFT journalists, DAOs, policy, Bitcoin, EVMs. So there's a journalist that will probably cover whatever your specific project is looking to do. But the one pet peeve for journalists is that if you reach out to them and you ask them to cover something that they don't cover, that's a bit of a red flag. And if you do it more than once, might get you put on some type of blacklist. So just read as much as you can, try to really understand what they're looking for, what publications like this type of article or like that type of article is more policy based, is it more token based, or is it tech based? And then that will really help you going forward. So number 2, and I hope William doesn't mind me saying this, and as the ex-journalist myself, I find journalists somewhat are egotistical. So we love when there's good feedback on Twitter or via email or Telegram, and love to hear that an article was well received. So don't be afraid if you see an article and it's nothing to do with your project to reach out and let a journalist know that you enjoyed reading it. Share it on Twitter, tag them on Twitter. A lot of times they'll be appreciative of that. They're also trying to build up their network, trying to build up their following, get more exposure, get more views on their articles. So I think this is a really good way and a simple way, especially if you're on Twitter, and crypto Twitter is huge, about how you can kind of build up a relationship with a journalist in a nice way. The next point, identify new and green journalists. So a new journalist or a journalist that has recently moved to a new publication or started a new beat, they need to make an impression when they start there. So they have to bring in new contacts, new sources, new stories. They have to basically show that they were worth bringing over from a different publication or taking them on in the first place. So oftentimes, if they're a new journalist, they'll be a little more eager to talk to perhaps like what you're doing, a smaller project or a project they might not talk to in the future. So journalists will often kind of flag on Twitter that they're moving to a new publication or have a new beat. So once they do that, again, feel free to, I would recommend reaching out, pinging them, and congratulate them on the move, let them know what you're working on, what your expertise are, and how you can help them in the future going forward, what your network is like, and basically just try to make their job as easy as possible. This kind of leads into my next point about offering insight and expertise without the expectation of a story. So this is about building relationships, not about getting into media just yet. So journalists, for the most part, are not subject matter experts as much as they write about blockchain. The vast majority of them are not developers or computer scientists. So they're always looking to kind of hear from experts and learn more about the tech, understand the tech better. They want to write the best articles they can. And you can be an asset to them. You can be a data point to them. So don't be afraid if you see a journalist writing about a subject that is within the realm of your project or your expertise, to reach out, offer your opinion or insight without the expectation of a story, just that you're trying to help them write a better story. And again, this is building a relationship with a journalist. Again, it might not result in a story straight away, but down the road, they might be writing another story. They'll come back to you for an opinion or your comment on something, or maybe double check if something's correct. And again, that might lead to a story down the road, but this is about building relationships. And number 5 then on this little tip is keep journalists up to date on your roadmap. So likely most of the projects here today might be too small currently for a journalist to cover. But there's simply there's so much going on in the world of crypto and the world in general. They're constantly breaking stories about the Silicon Valley Bank, FTX, SBF, regulatory stuff going on in the US, SEC. It's insane, it's crazy. There's so much money floating around, there's insane raises. So sometimes it can be hard to get your voice heard. But I think it is reasonable to reach out to a journalist and say, hey, look, I know we're quite small right now, but this is what we're planning in the future. We're hoping to get here, we're hoping to do this, just want to kind of flag this to you. And then every now and then you can give them an update on your milestones, you've released a new product, you made a big hire, made a little raise. Just let them know and bring them on that journey with you, so that eventually when then you're big enough around, you'll have built up that relationship, they'll have the context, they'll have the understanding, more likely to cover your story. But again, this is all about building relationships with journalists. So it's a symbiotic relationship. Sometimes journalists think that it can be kind of transactional. I only reach out to them when I have news and I want something covered, and they're what have you done for me lately? And which is completely fair. And so it's symbiotic. So we should be helping journalists as much as possible to write the best stories, cover the news as best they can with the information they have, and then vice versa. We can both help each other in this kind of situation. So that's a couple of tips there on how I think we should be looking to build relationships with journalists when we're in this early stage of our projects. So then the next slide, please, Martina. Thank you. So how to get into the media. So now that we've built these relationships, how do we capitalize on them? So media trends. This goes back to my first point about consuming as much media as possible. So what's in the news and what can you contribute to? So there are news cycles and topics come in and out of fashion. And if you're consuming media regularly, you'll start to kind of see these topics come in. You'll see more and more outlets are writing about a certain topic, and then they might fade away again. So once you're consuming media, you'll probably be able to pick up on these trends. And if it's something that you can contribute to, there's only so many sources in the world, and a journalist or a media outlet can't go back. It might seem like it, but it can't go back to the same person again and again and again. There needs to be a variety of voices involved in the conversation. So when you're seeing these media trends, if it's something that you can contribute to, yeah, it's time to reach out to a journalist and say, hey, I have an opinion on this, or I have a different insight in this, or I can take this from a different perspective, and try capitalize on these media trends. The next topic is similar to this, so newsjacking. So say this is a breaking story, something's just happened, and then how do you insert yourself into that conversation? So my example here is FTX. So when all this stuff was happening with FTX, nobody could get their money out of FTX. All accounts were locked and frozen. Ledger jumped on this and started talking about self-custody. And they had their CEO, Pascal, on every news outlet, on Bloomberg, on CoinDesk TV, talking about self-custody, the importance of owning your keys. And basically, that was great promotion for them. It was great publicity. It obviously resulted in lots of Ledger sales. So they did really well on that. So it's about seeing opportunities where you can jump in on. So again, anytime there's a bridge that's been exploited, I would look to chat to a journalist from the ICP standpoint of saying, look, we don't need bridges anymore. We can integrate directly with protocols. We've done this with Bitcoin, looking to do it with Ethereum, that type of thing. So always be looking to where you can insert yourself into the conversation. So then the third point, use your customers or users. So again, obviously every founder is fantastic about talking about how amazing their project is. Like it's the most innovative or the most groundbreaking, revolutionary. But a journalist, again, has heard this a million times from a founder or CEO. And obviously they might kind of chalk it off as marketing speak or PR talk, like these are rehearsed lines. But if you have a good relationship with your users or consumers or customers, sorry, and you get them to tell your story, that changes this conversation. So now it's coming from someone who's not directly involved or is not directly profiting from getting you in the media. They're just having a good experience. They're talking about why this product is different to something else they've used, why it's revolutionary. They can say all the same things as the founder, but once it's coming from someone else who's one step removed, it can make a massive difference. So if you have a good community, you have good relationships with your users, I would recommend maybe even trying to gather a couple of quotes and then sending that to a journalist and be like, hey, look, it's not me saying it. It's my users, my community, my the customers are saying it. It's not just me. And that does change the story and makes it a little bit easier for a journalist to pitch that to their editor and tell their story, because editors don't want to read press releases. They want to read actual kind of experiences and stuff like that. So if you can get real people who have been using your product to talk about it, that makes a massive difference to the journalist. And then lastly, this is kind of similar again, one step up, is to use your partners and investors. So likely your partners or investors might have a bigger reputation. They might have a bigger following. They've been around longer, especially if they're an investor, and they have more social proof, basically. So if you can leverage your investors or partners as much as possible until your name is recognizable, that will stand to you in the long run. So even this happened with DFINITY 2019, before the ICP token launch. We were reaching out to the Financial Times. We were telling them that DFINITY is about to launch their token, long awaited, and they didn't want to hear about it. They weren't interested whatsoever. So we changed the story and we said, this is Andreessen Horowitz's last big bet in crypto, their biggest bet in crypto, and their last one to go live. So I was like, do you want to take that angle on the story? And then they were like, yes, they're very interested in that once we brought Andreessen Horowitz into it and used that angle. So then we got a lovely feature in the Financial Times. Traditionally, they're quite negative towards crypto. So when you're a smaller project, you really have to use every avenue that's available to you. So don't just think about having your founder talk, leverage your customers, your users, your partners, your investors, everyone you can to tell your story. It doesn't have to be one person telling the story, but as much people as you can get to tell the story, you'll have much better success. So yeah, so I guess in conclusion, I would just say, like, consume as much media as you can, make friends with journalists, and then insert yourself into much bigger stories. And these are just some small tips and I think best practices. Obviously, as you scale, the strategy would change, but right now when you're a scrappy startup, I think these are the type of things that you should be trying to do to get the attention of the media and build those relationships for when you guys scale and are turning down journalists eventually, hopefully. And that's everything from me.
Thank you, Aaron. That was very interesting. So now we have Umesh with Principles of Web3 in Growth.
Hey everyone, thank you for being here. So I would like to share with you like some quick high-level thoughts in terms of as you think about growth, being a Web3 entrepreneur. Next slide, please. So I think the first thing is that whether you are a Web2 or a Web3 company, there is absolutely no substitute for finding your product market fit. So the key would be that you need to do very rapid iterations and experiments until you find that product market fit. So as simple as that. I meet a lot of different entrepreneurs. They have lots of different ideas on how this is like different in like Web3, but I mean, this is like a very simple fact, and I'll just leave it at that, right? Keep experimenting till you get to, let's say, okay, next slide, please. Till you get to this kind of a stage where what you put and what you expect is bigger than that. So the key idea is that unless you get to a point where your users keep on coming back, which means that, let's say if you get 100 people to try out your dApp and they keep on coming back for more. So unless that happens, and also say you bring in 100 people, 20 are retained. So that's a signal. But then if they can also start bringing in more people without you putting in any additional effort, those are really where you start to see the validations of that your product has a viable market fit. So, I mean, I think this is consistent whether you are a Web2 or a Web3 player. Next slide, please. The other thing that's very critical to understand is when you think about your growth, you should not be thinking about one-off initiative. It's not that, okay, we participated in this event and things will start to happen, or we just got this one press coverage from someone and we'll just like start, things will automatically start falling into place. You need to think of like growth has like, lots of people have different words. Some people call it flywheels, some people call it growth loops, whatever. But I think the key idea is that you need to really understand what your growth process is and try to see what is your flywheel. Think of things that can give you a multiplier effect. So I'll take a couple of examples just to kind of break down this concept. Shruti earlier in the presentation kind of covered something similar in terms of funnels versus these flywheels or loops. So let's take an example, right? So when we think about the internet computer, right? So what would be our, let's say, flywheel when it comes to onboarding new developers, right? So the first thing is we need to all spend time. Okay, here's like a new network. We need to get more and more like developers to come join the platform, the network. And then we essentially, the more developers we can make successful, right? So which means that, okay, they are able to find their runway, they are able to raise some VC money, they start to get some traction in press and Discord and Twitter and whatnot. Then our goal is to showcase their success stories. And just by doing that, we will just start to attract like new developers. So as you can see, like this thing works like a flywheel, it works like a loop. So you need to identify what are your steps, right? So when we bring more developers, we do whatever it takes to make them successful and we showcase their success stories. Just by doing that, it brings more developers and so on and so forth. So if you run this through like enough number of times and you hit that critical mass, then this thing automatically starts to work and you don't really need to spend any effort in trying to attract more developers because it just automatically happens. Let's take a similar example, right? So if you think about, this is something I just pulled from a blog, but just for the concept, right? So this is around talking about what's, let's say, a product like Substack's growth flywheel, right? So on a Substack, when new creators sign up, they essentially create content. Now they become your distributor of content, right? So they distribute content to different users. By that content, people discover Substack. So Substack, even if they don't promote themselves, the way it works is like somebody starts creating content, they start spreading it around. It's the same for Substack, for Medium, and all of these things. And your actual creators then start to drive more and more like users, and some of them turned out to be more subscribers or people who pay for their Substack membership. So the key is like in your product, these flywheels for every product might be like very different. Spend some time mapping out step by step what your flywheels are going to be. There could be more than one flywheel. There could be a flywheel for how do you do your referrals. There could be a flywheel for how you do your paid marketing, or how do you do your like for example, influencer marketing, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. This is extremely critical to understand for especially all the Web3 developers or entrepreneurs. I meet a lot of them, and then what they seem to think is like tokenization is a solution to everything. But it's very important to understand that tokenization will not give you product market fit. If your product doesn't work, yes, you may be lucky and you may be able to sell some tokens and you may be able to make money, possibly. It's just a roulette that you're playing. But if tokenization alone is unlikely to help you kickstart your flywheel if you don't have a viable product, it is very, very important for everyone in the space to understand what tokens can do and what tokens cannot do. Next slide, please. But I think on the very positive side, tokens in the Web3 world, if tokens are done right, then you get the escape velocity that you need. So if you think about every flywheel, I mean, the stuff that we talked about a couple of slides back, right? So every flywheel needs an escape velocity. If you think about like the Web2 world, people try a lot of different things. They try running Google or Facebook ads, they try referral programs, they try influencer marketing, content marketing, a lot of the things that were also kind of covered in some of the earlier slides. But think about it, most of them are, if you just think from like an accounting perspective, is like they are liabilities on your balance sheet, right? So you need to spend money from your like bank account to essentially do any of those things, which means that you will probably end up raising money from, you wouldn't just to bootstrap your venture, you would likely need to raise some money from a venture capitalist or basically generate revenue and then use your revenue to basically like, so all of these things essentially eat up your balance sheet, your money in the bank. But if you think about what Web3 can bring to the table is like, I mean, like for lack of a better word, just think about it. You are literally pulling money out of thin air. This is NFTs and fungible tokens, and you can use those as an incentive to align your users as co-owners, promoters. You are promising them the future potential, right? So but today you don't need to have VC money. You don't need to have like money in the bank, and you can literally do like everything that you need to drive growth and engagement of your product. So you absolutely need a product market fit first, but once you have that, once you have figured that out, that your product is viable, you can very easily craft a reasonably good token strategy to incentivize the right behaviors and kind of use this to your advantage. So in my mind, I think if there's one takeaway from this discussion, I mean, Web3 is different because it has a power for you to leverage tokens, because tokens are nothing but your future potential pulled out of thin air right now, like potential money pulled out of thin air that you can leverage for your growth. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lomesh. And now for the surprise of the night, we have an ICP project that has done very well with marketing throughout the past couple of months. And we have invited Rishi from Hot or Not to explain how the magic of marketing happened with them. So Rishi, hi, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so you can share yours.
Sure, Martina, thank you. Hopefully my screen is visible to everybody now. Hi, everybody. It's an early morning here in San Francisco, so very nice connecting with you all from all across the globe. I saw everybody's places there in the messages, and pretty happy to see that DFINITY community is just not concentrated in one area, but spread all across the globe. So yeah, so moving forward, I am the founder of Hot or Not. I'm not sure if you guys would have heard about us or not, but the point is that we have been one of the oldest startups in DFINITY. I think we started close to 1.5 years back with the first app, which was called Go Bazinga. And then we rebranded to Hot or Not around 4 to 5 months back. And I'll be pretty happy to cover the entire journey of why did we go in for the rebrand, and how the entire rebranding, after the rebranding, how the growth has been for us. So over the last 4 to 5 months, we have been able to garner 50,000 users, and all of that organically. So which means we have not even spent a single penny on traditional marketing channels like what everybody over here has already covered. So no money spent on the Googles of the world or the Facebooks of the world, but still we have been able to grow pretty fast. So the magic words will come down later in the time, and I'm sure Lomesh has just covered majority part of why and how can any DApp have explosive growth in a really short span of time. But starting off with what really helped us initially was the brand name. Rebranding to Hot or Not from Go Bazinga was one primary change that we did around 3 to 4 months back, and we believe that brand name does half of the trick. So if you are looking to market any product that you are creating, and if you have a brand name wherein people can immediately understand what your project is all about or what your DApp is all about, it becomes fairly easy for you to attract users. So again, in the Web2 world or in the traditional world also, you will see that people who have brand names which are quite unique to the things that they are doing, it's fairly easy to them. They do not have to go out and tell everybody what their product is and how the product will actually help solve people's problems. So this was a pretty big change that we did 3 to 4 months back. Moving on, before moving forward, I would just want to also give you a brief about what Hot or Not does, so that there is no confusion in everybody's mind that Hot or Not definitely sounds like a game, but what the game is all about, I'll just cover that and then subsequently move forward. So the game is pretty simple. We are a short video app. The product was created primarily because of one major problem that we saw all around us, which is there are 4.7 billion social media users all across the globe. And these users spend 2.5 hours daily. So just imagine all the people that you see all around you who are scrolling your devices or sitting on TikTok or Instagram. They are spending on an average 2.5 hours daily, which means 11 billion man hours are being spent on various social media platforms across the globe every single day. Just imagine the kind of time that everybody is spending on various social media platforms. But the main problem that we came up, why we even came up with Hot or Not was that out of all these 4.7 billion social media users, 4.65 billion users do not have any chance of monetizing their social media footprint. So which means while all of you sitting over here would be scrolling your devices on Twitter or Telegram or any other social media channel, there is a 98 or 99% chance that you would have no option to be able to monetize the time that you are spending scrolling. And that was a problem that we see all across. That is what we wanted to solve with Hot or Not. So how did we do that? We'll come to that. But you could also just imagine that one problem was how users can monetize their social media footprint from day one, even if you're not a content creator or and you are a content consumer. But also at the same time, you are seeing all around social media is more or less quite biased, because centralized entities and too few people have a lot of influence. So that is also something that we wanted to change, and hence we came up with the concept of Hot or Not, wherein it's a short video app. You could watch short videos, but you also have a chance to monetize your time as a content consumer, because you can follow your favorite creators, and you can speculate on the outcome of the performance of content pieces. So if you are watching videos, you can say if a video is will trend, which is a hot, or will not trend, which is a not, and then there's a chance that if you are right, if you are following that creator pretty well and you understand how the content for that creator works, you might win or you might lose, and so on and so forth. So we have gamified the entire platform of the social media ecosystem, wherein you can just not scroll through the content, but there is a chance wherein if you are following your creators pretty well, there's a chance that you are also able to monetize the time that you are scrolling content. So with that, it's fairly easy. If you just watch content, there'll be all videos. You can put up some tokens, which is basically you stake some tokens, and then you say whether the video is hot or not. And these are hourly bets. So basically in an hour, you'll get to know if the vote that you just put in after staking your tokens is correct or not, basis where the majority is voting. So pretty simple process. You will not need to do a lot of mathematics to understand how much are you winning or how much you are losing. It's a fairly simple bet that you'll be making on your favorite creator's video. So with that, I think the best thing that happened to us was that we started off around one and a half years with the name Go Bazinga, while collaborating with other projects in the IC ecosystem. So it was a fairly simple process for us. So we started looking at what other projects are already doing on various social media platforms, how their presence is, how many community members they had already built. And subsequently we started off with partnering up with all these projects. So you can see so many projects on the bottom of the slide, and these are not just this. I think we have already partnered with close to 100 odd projects specifically on the IC ecosystem. So that is how we started our journey after rebranding as well. So we started off with Go Bazinga, started partnering up with all these projects, rebranded to Hot or Not, and then again partnered up with all these projects again, because we started establishing really close relationships with all these people. So that is what really helped early on to grow our user base from scratch. There was no single person, there was no marketing no community members that we had while we started out, but this is how we started. Moving forward, we realized that there were a lot of different things that we could do with the growth of Hot or Not, and we came up with the concept of referral bonuses. So the application is live for us, so you can go ahead and have a look. But you can just imagine that if you are on our DApp, which is the Hot or Not application, you can start inviting your friends, and if your friend is successfully onboarded, you also earn some tokens, and your friend also earns some tokens. It's fairly simple. So you log in, there's a login link generated, and you can start inviting your friends. Once we launched this particular feature in the month of December, we saw quite an explosive growth. So over a period of just 1 week, we saw more than 20,000 people coming on and joining the platform. And it was not just as simple as that. We put out a feature and people started coming in. But what transpired was a few YouTubers, in geographies like Indonesia, India, Nigeria, the US, they started noticing what Hot or Not is. They got to know about Hot or Not through our Twitter and other marketing channels, and they started posting about us all organically. We did not know who these influencers are. We did not know how did they get to know about us, and so on and so forth. They started noticing us. They started putting out content about us on their own channels across various social media platforms, and that is where we started seeing explosive growth. Again, all of this has been done all organically. We did not even start influencer marketing at that point of time, and right now also more or less all our plans in the future are mostly based around how tokens would work for a platform like ours, and of course other marketing channels. But moving forward, so referrals was another thing that worked really well for us. Then Telegram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, as Emilio also covered and Shruti also covered about all these different channels. So once we started building our community members, it was imperative that we also start engaging with these community members, checking in with them, periodically, whether they are facing any problems on our DApp or they are looking to get new features. So we were constantly engaging with all our community members through different channels. So one is of course Twitter, wherein we give out information about what we have been doing, and of course Twitter and LinkedIn have also been pretty good channels for us to initiate partnerships with more projects and so on and so forth. Word of mouth marketing was again one of the major factors that started trickling in for us around a couple of months back. So once these small influencers noticed about what Hot or Not is doing. They started posting about us on their own social channels. And from there, once a user comes in and they're happy with the experience that Hot or Not is providing, word of mouth marketing also starts. So if you are a new user coming in, you really like what Hot or Not app is, there's a high probability that you'll also start again inviting your friends. Referral bonus is totally different, but also at the same time, if the user experience, if the product is good enough, automatically you would also tell your friends that you need to come and check this platform out. So word of mouth marketing is something which I believe that was not covered in the entire presentation, but has worked really well for us. It comes back to the product. I'll cover that as well, but just imagine if you are a Web3 dApp, it's pretty solid if you can just create a strategy around how people can talk about your dApp without going the traditional route. So yes, definitely PR will be one route, or there'll be other marketing channels, but can your product deliver the same kind of experience? There are quite a few other things that we did early on, but just to summarize on where we think the direction should be for Web3 marketing is, of course, we need to, Aaron just mentioned that, if we can leverage your partners, your users, or any other people who are a part of your community members who can, talk about you and tell other people more about what your product is, what you as a brand are, things become fairly simple. So, in our case, DFINITY has been pretty helpful because we have been partnering up with DFINITY across various stages. And we believe that a lot of users who are noticing us are coming in from the partnerships with all the different projects, and of course, the partnership with DFINITY. And tokens, the last thing that I would want to cover is tokens, if done right, is a pretty great marketing channel. We have already noticed it, in our dApp. So as soon as we are airdropping tokens just to, maybe increase. So if our KRA today in our dApp is to increase engagement or increase any other action, which we as an organization, we would want, we just put out airdrops for people who are pursuing those actions would receive the tokens from our end. And we have seen pretty good actually remarkable results for the same. So which means that tokens is something which can be used across all the traditional Web2 channels also, for your marketing, and also all the new Web3 channels as well. But they have to be done right. So you just cannot, go ahead and give out tokens for each and everything. Tokens need to have the same mental space as your fiat currency has, with respect to money in anybody's mental space. So which means that if you are just giving out tokens for each and everything to your users, they will not have any value for your tokens in their headspace. So the strategy needs to be done right, but it's primarily a free marketing tool for all Web3 projects, which we can utilize to grow our user base really, really fast. I've noticed it across different dApps also, and for us also it has been working pretty well. So yeah, so more or less that has been our journey, quite an exciting one, and we really feel that with all the right marketing tactics in place, we are targeting to become one of the biggest apps, not just in the IC but also across the Web3 ecosystem really soon. Martina, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. It was very interesting and informative. So let me just share the screen once again. Just 1 second. It's happening. So yeah, if anyone has any questions now, you can raise your hand and I will bring you up to stage, or you can ask them in the chat. I can see that you were pretty active, coming from all over the world. We have around 10 minutes. So if anyone has any questions, yeah, this is the time. All right, so if we don't have any questions, just so you know, because I saw the question at least twice on the chat, this webinar is going to be recorded and uploaded on YouTube. So if you want to come back to it, you can always do that. And of course, you can all follow us at Twitter, LinkedIn, check out our website. I know you've already you already checked out everything. And if you want, you can give us your feedback from this webinar by scanning this QR code, which will take you to a form. And we will very much appreciate your thoughts and your ideas, or if you just want to say hi. Yeah. Oh, I see a question by Jordan. Would you like to come up on stage? Success strategies. Sure. Okay. Hi there.
All right. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yep.
Great. So we recently had a very, very large campaign for a national pitch competition that we were in, and DFINITY was really great about supporting us in that. Especially on Twitter and LinkedIn, we were very successful at getting a lot of engagement, a lot of views, a lot of conversions, and that was really good. But the attempts that I made on Discover and what's the other big one that I'm forgetting
District.
right now?
District or open chat.
Yeah, on District. I just was failing big time in getting engagement on there, and I ended up giving up pretty quickly. So that could have been the first issue. But I wonder if anybody has any like success strategies regarding specifically getting engagement on those platforms, on how to be successful in getting people interested in what you're doing, getting them. Great, Kyle. That sounds good. Thank you. But anybody else also, I'd really be grateful to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I think I can cover this. So yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think being one of the Web3 DApp owners on DFINITY, I think I'll be able to cover a bit around how you can start getting engagement. So if you can just imagine that the priority for any social media DApp which is being created right now is that how do more people join the same, so that actually it becomes a social space for people to interact with each other. So all the dApps follow a similar strategy as what I believe. So the strategy is fairly simple. You hop on to that platform with your friends or people who or you start interacting with other people on the platform. And while you have started interacting with other people, it's pretty difficult early on even on Web2 platforms, but also at the same time it's a bit slow process. So you have to interact and then subsequently put out content, engage more with the platform, spend more time, invite your friends, and so on and so forth. So again, it might not happen overnight that you're just coming in and immediately you start getting traction, but it follows a similar principle of other Web2 apps as well. At the same time, what we also believe, a lot of different apps will also start coming out with their algorithm and make them public, so that new social media users would be able to go ahead and see what they exactly need to do. But I think that's still 6 to 8 months down the line for most of the apps on IC.
Two really good comments too about airdrops and NFTs. I can just real quick, this is not on the ICP chain, but my success story in Web3 where I got 8,000 or more followers in less than a year, and then that platform died. But how did I get it? It was through NFTs. It was through engagement with NFTs. So I agree with Buzz's comment. People love NFTs that are free.
So, fundamentally, you need to understand what are the goals for the people that are coming to those platforms, right? So people could come to a platform like Discover for multiple reasons. A bunch of them, as we are saying, they're here for collecting airdrops and NFTs and fungible tokens. So if that's what they're there for, you give them that. Other people are therefore maybe like that sense of community or ideology that we are trying to decentralize a really big system. So for those people, the narrative needs to be completely around how are you like, how is your product targeting, and like around that motivation that they have on why they are on Discover. So it's just a matter of like basically prioritizing and trying to understand what are the goals of your like audience, and then give them essentially what they're looking for.
Yeah, just to add to that, Jordan, the reality is that all the Web3 platforms we are mentioning here are new. So they are growing their audiences as we speak. And the probably right now the audiences there are looking for those, like you mentioned in the comment, like those valueless NFTs, and that's the audience that is attracting today. But I think we need to be there so that as the audiences are growing, as these platforms become bigger and bigger, that segmentation is kind of possible. Right now, probably it's more about being there and participating in that kind of an environment, and then slowly taking it from there. I don't know. That's what I.
Well, thank you all once again for participating. It has been, I thank also my colleagues because that was very informative and I learned something myself. It was very productive. So yeah, see you next week with the next webinar, which I believe is on community growing. So yeah, follow our channels and we will tell you everything. See you next week. Bye, everyone.